This sketch isolates mid-sized engineering firms with fewer than 50 employees and turnover above 5 million RM. When founders hit that mark, the instinct is to push harder and win bids. But look at the operational complexity mapping out above. For a project-based firm, the moment a major contract is signed, the clock starts on a massive, immediate cash burn. You might have the market demand, but you need liquidity upfront for inventory and execution. Without that critical upfront cash, operations violently grind to a halt long before the client pays their invoice. Competitive advantage depends entirely on how fast your business can convert its operations back into cash. This flowchart maps the working capital cash cycle. Cash flows out to cover overheads and raw materials, then gets sunk into the project and work-in-progress nodes. Even after completion, that money sits in debtors, waiting on client payment. If this cycle stalls at any single point, you cannot fund the acquisition of your next client. A completely full order book can easily turn into a fast track to insolvency. To fix this, we have to isolate the bottlenecks. The first battleground is purchases and inventory flow, specifically the transition from raw materials to work in progress. This requires strict physical tracking across multiple locations. Exact costing methods apply as materials enter production. By doing this, you know exactly how much cash is absorbed on the shop floor hourly, yielding a precise final cost margin for every project. Implementing this level of tracking requires heavy administrative overhead and usually new software. It will eat directly into your short-term profits. But failing to track your work-in-progress absorption means you are quoting new clients completely blind. Taking on a larger client without exact inventory costing often hides the reality that you are losing margin on every hour of work. At scale, that persistent lack of visibility can quickly and aggressively strip the entire business of its remaining liquid cash. The next bottleneck happens where raw labor meets client expectations: project and shop floor management. Looking at the flowchart's bottom left, management must mandate rigid timesheet reporting and track accumulated man days for engineering staff. Technical staff often resist this, viewing daily mobilization logs and timesheets as bureaucratic friction pulling them from real work. However, that exact reporting is the only way to generate accurate S-curve timelines and formal delivery orders. An incomplete timesheet stops the S-curve. That blocks the job certificate, which halts the outgoing invoice. The cash register stays empty. Operational documentation functions as the physical mechanism that releases trapped cash back into the cycle for growth. The final battleground sits right before you actually realize the cash: the sales cycle and your debtors. You have to implement strict credit control protocols and formalize the entire pipeline from request for quote to the final sales order. Enforcing strict credit terms means you will likely lose bids. Competitors will offer generous, extended payment timelines to win the job. In reality, losing those bids protects the business. Clients who demand execution upfront while delaying payment look like growth on a spreadsheet, but they operate as massive liabilities in reality. Strict credit control dramatically speeds up the vital conversion of your completed projects back into accessible liquid cash. It minimizes the time your money sits locked inside accounts receivable. A smaller roster of clients who pay on time provides a more sustainable foundation for growth than a massive list of accounts who treat your firm like a free bank. To safely expand, a company must align its target growth rate with its internal operational maturity. If you pair high growth ambition with low operational control, you enter the growth trap. Taking on massive jobs without a tight cash cycle forces an over-reliance on bank loans just to float payroll. A single delayed payment risks total insolvency. Conversely, pairing high operational control with high growth ambition results in weaponized scale. Mastering inventory flows and project timelines generates high cash velocity and highly predictable margins. Companies operating in this quadrant are the only ones capable of safely stealing market share from sloppier competitors. Trying to outsell a broken cash cycle is a guaranteed path to failure for mid-sized engineering firms. Growth is a metric of vanity. Cash flow is a metric of sanity. Optimize your internal working capital cycle before you chase the external prize of market dominance.